चालू करना.
Hello, check.
Namaskar. Jai Hind, sir. May I start, sir? A very warm good evening to all the participants. This is the series of lecture of Dr. Ambedkar International Center on the occasion of 75 years of independence. I am very happy to announce that we have Professor Sundarram Korivi as the chief guest and speaker today. I am not going to get much time here, but sir, with your permission, I would just read for the students, those who take interest in economics, financial markets, and finances as such, he needs no introduction. But for all others, those who are here, let me just tell you about Dr. Korivi. He is a distinguished academic and financial markets professional with over 35 years of experience. He currently serves as Adjunct Faculty in IICA, that is Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. For the students, young students who are here, and I can see, sir, we have guests from Gargi College also. We have UPSC aspirants, students are here. Dr. Korivi was awarded All India rank 7th in his chartered accountancy. And he was first in auditing by Institute of Chartered Accounts of India. He has been associated with National Institute of Securities Markets. He was the founder dean and SEBI SSIR Chair Professor from 2008 to 2018. He launched the Certified Securities Market Professional Program. And as sir was mentioning, he is on board of several companies. The best part is that whatever syllabus we read in the institutes and colleges, lot many institutes take his guidance for designing the syllabus. He has been advisor to Department of Economic Affairs. He has been faculty of Arun Jaitley National Institute of Financial Management. In fact, I had the honor to be his student. And I have my colleague also here who has come all the way from field tenure to listen to sir. And believe me, when we were doing our post-graduation and sir was guiding us, the only lectures we used to enjoy was Professor Korivi's lecture. He would agree with me. Why? Not because I am saying anything because sir is here, but the examples which sir used to give, it used to make the sessions more interesting. And I always used to tell, like, I am an infantry officer, did not know anything of financial markets, sir, before I came to NIFM. But yes, everything helps because the way he brings out the complex subjects in a very simple, candid language, that makes the difference. That is how I requested him to come here and guide us on financial inclusion. What do we mean by that? And what is the changing landscape of BFSI? And to guide us. Professor Korivi is based in Mumbai. He has come all the way here on our request. I am very thankful to you, sir, for your time. Without further ado, let me request our team of DAIC to kindly felicitate sir, and we will request him to accept the token of gratitude for this. The sequence of today's lecture would be as such. I will now request Professor Korivi to give his talk on the subject. After the talk, the floor would be open for Q&A session, which we will manage, and then we can also interact with him after his lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Akash Patil, and all the faculty colleagues here, academicians, researchers, and student friends. I'm going to place before you an eclectic set of thoughts organized in the best possible manner, I thought. And it will fill up some of the information gaps so that you get a holistic picture of the BFSI sector. And I would also raise some questions in your minds which you can take up in your future research agenda, because when research is rigorous, it should also be relevant. So I'm talking about the relevance part. In lighter vein, the topic of my lecture today would be the BFSI sector, good, bad, and ugly, to quote a Clint Eastwood movie. So the presentation structure is, from what academic experts say, obliquely referring to the BFSI sector. And then a bird's eye view of the BFSI sector. When we studied chemistry in class 10, we learned about the Mendeleev's table of elements. So the BFSI sector can be presented in that way. I'll talk of some of the the sector in financial inclusion steps taken by the government. A lot of good work has been done, which has to be taken forward. And then I will introduce you to the consumer segments, because when you start working in the BFSI sector, unfortunately, the thinking process is about targets. You have to sell so much of insurance. You have to sell so much of broking income. Okay, and the customer's interest is somewhere pushed to the background. So here I'm placing customer-centric approach, financial inclusion for the consumer. And then there are a lot of needs in the BFSI sector, and there are certain gaps to be fulfilled. So I will leave you with a lot of food for thought. So first is, we know from lectures in public economics, Stiglitz and Atkinson, they have written a famous book called Lectures in Public Economics. One striking sentence there, which is very applicable and relevant for India, is that we had a great social institution called the joint family system. Think about it. When you have a joint family system, there is no one single breadwinner. There are several breadwinners. Okay, so it was a mutual insurance. The design was quite robust. And then after the grand old man becomes 65 years old or 70 years old, the sons and the grandsons will say, you've done enough for us now. Please sit comfortably, we will do for you. That was the built-in pension system. Now what happens is modernity has taken place. Nobody wants to live in a joint family system. So we go nuclear. Okay, even that is breaking, because now you will see in the West a lot of single parents bring up their children for various reasons. Okay, so now you need insurance. Relationships are broken, so now you need products. So insurance is a product. Pension is a product. So this is the socio-economic background of that. You know the product, but now you know the socio-economic background. Then we all know Adam Smith, laissez-faire economy, that the role of the government is restricted to maintaining the borders, law and order, police, and the courts for maintaining the sanctity of contracts. So entrepreneurship or the animal spirits in the West have said we should be having laissez-faire economy, libertarian. Okay, the shackles of regulation should not be enforced upon us. And we are the financial sector. Okay, so we should not be regulated excessively. Why? Adam Smith said that. Okay, but that would be seen as a misquotation because somewhere hidden in the footnotes of Adam Smith, actually he had advocated regulation for the financial sector. Real sector is different and financial sector is different. Financial sector needs regulation. Now what could be the logic? He said that if you buy a microwave and if the microwave machine malfunctions, you can go to the shop and get a refund or a replacement. But financial products are abstract. So the producer of a financial product knows more about its potential to malfunction than the consumer. And that's why mis-selling takes place. It is intrinsic to the financial sector. It is abstract. And therefore, consumer protection assumes centricity. And therefore, financial regulation is necessary. So people picked up this gem of Adam Smith after the 2008-9 global crisis, when much of the damage was done. Okay, so the financial sector needs regulation because the producer knows more about the malfunction of a potential product. And last but not the least, Benjamin Graham needs no introduction to the world of investment, guru of Warren Buffett. And very interestingly, he said that those who work in the BFSI sector, for example, bankers selling loans or personal loans, or insurance companies selling insurance products, they receive intensive sales training. They have their academies and they have intensive sales training. But for consumers, there is no defense training, like how we learn karate for self-defense. Okay, so my today's session is a defense, it's a karate lesson for how to defend yourself against such malpractices. My source of reference is Benjamin Graham. Okay, so having learned what the experts say to give us some perspective, let us look at a sectoral view of BFSI. Banks and non-banks are regulated by RBI, securities markets by SEBI, insurance by IRDA, pensions by PFRDA. There are two more which are not there in this slide. Insolvency Bankruptcy Board, which takes care of the insolvency professionals. And in Gift City, you have IFSCA, which is an integration of all of these. Okay, now as far as financial inclusion is concerned, we have regulatory silos. It's in silos, but the structure is quite good. And at the top, you have FSDC, Financial Stability and Development Council, which is a post-2013 outcome of the Sri Krishna Commission. It is supposed to have a permanent office and staff and research. And one of the finance minister also conducts meetings under FSDC formally. And one of the important aspects of FSDC is that they have identified something known as systemically important financial institutions. So there is double oversight for systemic institutions, one from their sector regulator and one from FSDC. Plus it helps in better data analytics and better coordination inter-regulatory. Having said that, think about it, right from morning to evening, an individual is availing of various financial services under the entire spectrum of BFSI, right from using your credit card or debit card, going to the ATM machine, taking a two-wheeler insurance, and right up to using your credit card in a mall or paying for a cup of coffee and opening an FD and then investing in the stock market from 9:15 to 3:30. You are engaging across the spectrum of the BFSI. Why I say this is because young students think that finance means share market. The canvas is much wider. So now about the consumer segments, the lower strata of society needs to be covered under the ambit of financial inclusion. There are several support measures which they need, which are made available by the government, which will come in my next few slides. I give you a panoramic view of all the initiatives taken by the government, which are meant to take care of the lower segment and the middle segment. Then there is an upper segment, which really does not need the government support. They can take their own health insurance. They can go abroad and avail of the best medical facilities. And they have everything. They have mutual funds, they have stocks, they have bonds, they have gold. They are looking for an adventure in life. So 5% of their investment portfolio they can devote to an alternative investment fund or portfolio management services. The entire BFSI sector is primed to receive this upper segment. Okay, it's the middle segment, the missing middle, which needs protection, which needs investor education. Having said that, my next 3 slides talk about the government incentives. I'm sure most of you are aware of many of the government initiatives. It has been announced widely in the media. But here I'm trying to put everything under one umbrella to help you to appreciate the wide sweep of the initiatives concerned with BFSI across ministries, across regulators. So you have the Department of Financial Services. All of you researchers can go through the website of Department of Financial Services and see that we have with Jan Dhan Yojana, basic services, bank deposit, and banking correspondence, business correspondence. It is one of the largest financial inclusion program in the world. So if you are proud of our ISRO, if you are proud of our DRDO, you can be proud of our financial inclusion system. We can keep improving because the rest of the world is watching what is happening here. And look at the sequencing. We got our mobile telephony in order, an affordable, well-functioning mobile phone device, followed by Aadhaar with all the embedding of data into it, followed by the Jan Dhan Yojana. Jam Trinity was complete. Okay. Then we have the Atal Pension Yojana and Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana and Suraksha Bima Yojana. All the details are there in the DFS website. Sum and substance of all this is you are carpet bombing the base population with a very low cost life insurance, accident insurance, and pension. And then the Ministry of Information Technology has created this center of common service centers where people who are not really computer literate can get the basic availment of the basic services from the government, what I would call assisted digital. That is available. Then you have the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana from Mohua, and you have Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which is Ayushman Bharat. It's an amazing, one of the largest programs covering health in the world. I was surprised to see that Jan Aushadhi, which actually reduces the monthly expenses on medicine by 90%. It comes under the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, surprisingly. Then we have the Ministry of Education, which provides Vidya Lakshmi CSIS, which Ambedkar Institute should do some more research on that, if not already. Now coming to the regulators, SEBI, when it introduced the depositories regulations and the Depositories Act, there is a basic services demat account. This basic services demat account is the capital market counterpart of the Jan Dhan Yojana. Okay, so every depository and depository participant is supposed to open a basic services demat account for somebody whose investment is up to 2 lakh rupees. Okay, now why is this important under the BFSI context is that many countries in Eastern Europe and Mongolia, etc., when they started their privatization program, okay, including Russia, Eastern Europe, etc., when they started their privatization program, they used it as a big push opportunity to open up the capital markets. In India, the idea was, Coal India was one of the largest IPOs in recent times, 14,000 crore. Now, of course, that has become par for the course. So when Coal India IPO was opened up, IDBI capital markets and SBI caps went all over the country, opening up demat accounts. Okay, so that you get the Coal India shares in your demat account, and then probably later on you will develop a taste for Infosys or L&T, something like that, a start. So that is why the BSDA. And then SEBI has recently launched a program called Mitra, where many people invest in mutual funds at the end of the year for that ATC benefit, ELSS, etc. And then they forget about it. And those were the days of paper and pen investment. So now you can find out your missing folio number. Okay, I'm saying this is a matter of good housekeeping. If you look at every household in India, they would be having some missing FDs or some missing mutual funds. So this is a good initiative by SEBI. And RBI has started retail direct gilt account. Individuals can invest directly in government securities. Now this is a big move according to me. There's more than meets the eye, because all of us have been making our ATC investment, National Savings Certificate Series 6, Series 7, National Savings Scheme, sovereign gold bonds, etc. Okay, but these are not marketable instruments. You can pledge them to get a loan. But if all this is consolidated and you have government securities which you can buy and sell from your demat account, which you can also pledge and take a loan, then there is a consolidation. Okay, then IRDA has started a Bima Sugam, which is a government version of the private sector insurance platform. Okay, so what is that called? I'm not able to recall the name at the moment. So Bima Sugam is a complete platform like a Flipkart, where all your insurance queries and purchase of insurance can be done from that platform. And then PFRDA is planning to promote NPS, and for those who are below 18, the parents can contribute NPS Vatsalya. This again is a very low cost scheme. So I just came across one entrepreneur who has his polyester product, polymer product factory in Aurangabad, and he had only 12 employees, below 20. He did not have to cover his employees under PF, but he told them to open an NPS account. Okay, so this is a great initiative. People tell their drivers and housemaids, etc., to open a NPS account. And NPS Vatsalya is, you can open it for your child who is below 18, so that when they carry it on, they get a pension at the end. So these are all private sector, open to the private sector. Then continuing on the same lines, Swamitva is a scheme which is the legalization of the property, land property owned by farmers. Those of you who studied economics would have heard of a Peruvian economist called Hernando de Soto, who said that if land is not having a proper title, then the person who is owning it formally or informally does not assume any property rights. But once the property rights are granted or formalized and title is formalized, then somebody can take a business loan with that as collateral, and based on that they get a lift in life, standard of living. Swanidhi is for street vendors, where street vendors can take a loan. Because now, because of Jan Dhan, when you do a Paytm to a hawker, there's a bank account at the end. Now, if I'm a banker and I know that his daily collection is 20,000 rupees, I can easily give him a loan which I can recover in 24 installments for his equipment, because he's going to come through me only. So that's a great scheme. Swami is another great scheme, is that for those builders who have constructed property for affordable housing, and their projects are stuck for various reasons, then it is the consumer who suffers. So the MOHUA created this scheme, and SBI Venture Capital was the nodal agency for that scheme. So they would actually sit at the site and do the rebudgeting and monitor the project and see to it that the project is delivered to the individuals. Okay. Now, when you look at the China real estate crisis, my China real estate crisis lecture is available on YouTube. If you look at the China real estate crisis, you will realize that how far-sighted this Swami scheme is. Okay, they actually foresaw this problem. Then for business loans, we have Mudra and Stand Up India for scheduled caste entrepreneurs, scheduled tribe entrepreneurs, and women entrepreneurs. And employee credit guarantee. So bankers are very much, mentally collateral oriented. So for collateral support, the guarantee comes from the government. And the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare has already, for many years now, PM Kisan and PM Kisan Credit Card. So these are small business supports. Other initiatives, postal life insurance, I would request all of you to revisit this and, communicate. This audience has to propagate these ideas to the grassroots. Then there is Public Provident Fund, which is available to all and sundry, Employees State Insurance Corporation, EPFO. Now the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has got an Investor Education and Protection Fund. Now they have established an authority, IPFA authority. Now, there are two big stories I have come across from my individual interactions with people. One is a lot of people have inherited land from their father, grandfather. They don't know how to go about it. So digitalization of land records is going to help there. And the second thing is many people do not even know that they have inherited shares. Okay, now under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, under the Companies Act, unclaimed dividend goes into a particular account. Okay, so now there is an authority there. So if we like a Swachh Bharat, if we have a Swachh investment scheme, you can actually trace back and you may be owners of shares. So those initiatives have been in place. Now the upper segment, I made a mention about it briefly. The upper segment can invest in alternate investment funds, category 1, 2, and 3. Okay, category 1 is angel and venture funds. As I said, Narayana Murthy, Ratan Tata, in their later days, they became angel investors. And some of these businessmen become venture capitalists. So that is institutional funding available now to finance the startup ecosystem. So who are the investors? The investors there are individuals and high net worth individuals and family offices. They hand over their money to an alternate investment fund, which is a professional money manager. Then private equity is like a larger version of a venture capital fund. They invest in unlisted companies. They also invested in listed companies, so they have a hybrid portfolio. And then there are hedge funds which do high frequency, volatile trading strategies. These are risky strategies. These are meant for high net worth individuals. So, and PMS, portfolio management services, for a threshold level of something above. So the affluent class is having these investment vehicles to take care of themselves. So suppose somebody is a high net worth individual, but he is too busy with his own business. He can hand over his risky portfolio to an alternate investment fund or a money manager. So a professional money manager takes care of it. Interestingly, Reserve Bank of India had launched a liberalized remittance system where individuals can invest various amounts. It used to be $75,000 or something like that outside India. So DSP, Merrill Lynch, Mirai Mutual Fund, a lot of these mutual funds had launched mutual funds which were investing in the outside companies, typically the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. For some reason, the government has put a stop to these and liberalized remittance scheme is now being reviewed by the government. It is not going to be banned or prohibited, but they're giving it a re-look because you can't shut the door, because if you prevent Indian investors, affluent investors from investing outside, it may send a bad signal. So inward investment may also stop. So the government is taking a very calibrated approach. Another phenomenon which is taking place is that a lot of foreign law offices, they come to India, they camp in 5-star hotels, and they say, migrate to Portugal, migrate to this tax haven, etc. And there are takers. So now this is a matter of concern for the government, in the sense that why do affluent individuals want to leave India? Okay. I just take a line from Professor Pigu, who said that you can't make the poor rich by making the rich poor. So where you have professors like Thomas Piketty who talk about redistribution, etc. Redistribution, yes, a lot of work is being done there, but redistribution at what cost? So you have to keep these affluent investors on shore, because one affluent person in the country is also employing 20 people, including household help. So there has to be a balance there. Like we have Make in India program, some years back, the government had toyed of an idea called Study in India program. Because in the rural areas and in the urban areas also, many parents, they mortgage their property, they mortgage their land, take about 2 crore of rupees and send their children to study abroad. It worked out in the past, but now a lot of Western countries say you can study, but you can't work here. They all come back. Now there are loans to be repaid. So one educational policy which is being toyed with now is make the foreign universities establish a campus here. Okay, so that the students have to pay the tuition fee and not the living costs. So this takes care of the remittance angle. Now the middle segment, which neither has the affluence of the upper class, nor is eligible. So middle class is excluded from financial inclusion program because of income and other criteria. So this is the sweet spot for the Indian BFSI sector. So what is the raison d'etre of financial services? You need a very simple product. Okay. You need a term insurance policy. If I pay so much premium per annum in case of unfortunate event, my successors are not left on the road. Just as an example, if I pay 700 premium per annum, my family should get a compensation of 5 lakh rupees. And then as I progress, I can pay additional premium and I get the top up. Term insurance is the must. If you make a sandwich, you need that slice of bread at the bottom. But the Indian BFSI sector is building a sandwich without the bread at the bottom. So term insurance is that bread slice at the bottom. Then on top of that, you need capital protection. Okay. A lump sum set aside, okay, within a reasonable time at a reasonable rate will double in some years. Okay, so a lump sum set aside will take care of your nest egg requirements at the end of 25 years. So if your age of entry is early, any lump sum set aside will earn you compound interest without the vagaries of the market, and you will get a capital sum at the end. So, okay, suppose you invest in PPF, even if it is for tax benefits, and you forget about it. 25 years later, you see that it's become a nice sum. That is capital protection. Then, if you need growth, you can invest in an index mutual fund. Index mutual fund means you hand over your money to a mutual fund and he doesn't try to outperform the index. He will invest every 1,000 rupees in the same proportion. And then if you invest in a mutual fund which invests in gold bars, okay. So depending on your age of entry and your risk profile, every 1,000 rupees which you save can be invested in these 4 products. Life is simple, you don't have to complicate it. So in these approaches, you get life protection, you get capital protection, you get growth, and you get inflation protection. All capital market pundits say that if you put your money in an index fund, 12% is par for the course, which is good enough. Now the big good, bad and the ugly. Let's come to the ugly part. In cricket you have a square cut. Okay, here in BFSI there is a cut. Credit cards, ULIP and trading. Okay, think about the damage that these three products have created on the Indian household wealth. One is credit cards, which comes from the banking sector. The other is ULIP, which comes from the insurance sector. And the third is trading, which comes from the securities markets. As far as credit cards are concerned, think about how our grandfather lived. He didn't save much, but he saved well. And he bought land and gold. Okay, so no liabilities. Kam kamayenge to kam khayenge. Okay, and with all the surplus, he created these assets. The assets are compounding and the liabilities are zero. So you have a solid asset. Okay, but today's generation, you take a credit card and you go to an Apple store and you buy a mobile phone. What's your balance sheet after some time? Your assets are depreciating and your liabilities are compounding. You are working your way to financial ruin. Okay, then similar thing is unit-linked insurance plan. Okay, instead of giving a basic term insurance, which should be your first insurance policy, followed by top-up, ULIP is a good product, but then it is sold as the first product. Okay, the idea is to milk the customer who walks in to the maximum extent possible. Okay, and therefore what happens is so many people have lapsed policies at the second year or third year, and that's a huge loss for the investors. Finally, the investors, why do they not renew the premium? Because they say, this is not the policy which I wanted. Okay, so this is again a huge loss. And then finally, trading. Okay, if you click on any Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, they'll say investment advice. Okay, 21 easy ways to become a millionaire or something like that. Okay, and you click. For the first few sentences, they'll talk about investment. After that, it is trading. You enroll for a course in some 5-star hotel, and then first 5 minutes, they'll talk about investment. After that, it is trading. Okay, so trading is different, investment is different. In the same way as insurance is different and investment is different. Don't bundle the two. Okay, you are mixing masala dosa with bhel puri. Okay, so they are mixing two products which are not compatible. Keep the two separate. If you take a term insurance and if you take a PPF, that's good enough. Okay, so as far as trading is concerned, why does this happen? Because the broker gets his brokerage from churning. Warren Buffett has said that brokers hate me because I don't churn. I buy good stocks and I hold them. Okay, and thereby I enjoy the growth, not the day trading. Okay, so what they will do is, they will say, invest a lump sum and buy a large quantity of this stock at 11 o'clock, and at 3:15 you sell it. The difference is 10 rupees per share, but because you invested in 1 lakh rupees, your difference is magnified. Okay, so they use the quantity to magnify. Okay, now put it in a different way. In that one day, by 3 o'clock, the market could turn negative also. Okay, but on the contrary, if you tell a small investor that, look, every month you buy 1 share of Infosys or 1 share of L&T. Okay, at the end of 25 months, you have 25 shares of that company. And then you don't have to look at it, rights, bonus, stock split, it grows. That is the way, but nobody does that. Okay, so idea, if you want to initiate somebody into investment for the first time, the best thing would be to tell them that, okay, in the next 50 months, you should buy 1 share of each of the Nifty. Okay, and then build on that. Okay, nobody does that. So these 3 factors have created a huge negative wealth in the Indian ecosystem. So credit cards are not a bad product intrinsically, but predatory practices and opportunity billing. You know, if you miss the due date, bang, they get you 500 rupees fine. That's what they want. Okay, if you pay on time, they hate you. Okay, so there is lack of user education. I was very surprised, you will be also surprised, that now there are credit card consultants. Okay, like wedding planners, there are credit card consultants who will say, okay, you got 5 lakhs. Okay, so basically they will take you to a bank and give you a loan of 5 lakhs, which you can repay over 24 months, but get rid of your credit card, because God knows how much is the rate of interest which they charge, plus penal interest. Okay, so credit card debt can be crippling, and the need of the hour is credit card user education, and we need some rescue campaigns. When I was a professor in one university, we had a cooperative credit society, and lot of the peons and sub-staff were embroiled in this credit card debt. So the credit society gave them a loan, told them to square up the credit card, and we sort of put them back on the path. Today they don't have a credit card, they have a debit card. Okay, so similarly, unit-linked insurance plan, bundled product. It's a very complex bundled product. It tries to be a little over-ambitious, it's over-designed, a little of everything. Okay, but then the premiums are difficult to sustain sometimes. And you know, sometimes during COVID, people lost their job. They couldn't pay the premium. And nowadays, at least in my generation, you know, one career, one job. But nowadays, people are in between jobs for long periods of time. You are not able to sustain a premium. So there is also regulatory capture. You will be amazed to know that the insurance agents actually are able to dictate terms to the chairman of an insurance company, because they are the ones who bring in the moolah. Okay, so that's called regulatory capture. It happened in 2008, 2009. I wonder how many of you remember. Bhave was the chairman of SEBI, and he said that ULIP is a disguised mutual fund, and therefore it should be regulated by SEBI and not by by IRDA. Okay, then finance minister had to step in. It was a tough war, and the then chairman of IRDA went in support of his industry. But towards the end of his tenure, he realized that he was wrong. Okay, so this is a clear-cut case of regulatory capture, where the regulatees are able to dominate policy, but society suffers. So the need of the hour, just like credit card, we need a term insurance revolution. Just like we had a Jan Dhan revolution, we need a term insurance revolution, and we need to encourage unbundling of products. Okay, Policy Bazaar, etc. I remember they used to say we sell term insurance, and then when you log in, you have to give your mobile number. Abhi mobile number dena padta hai, nahi to aage nahi jayega. Okay, and then they'll phone you and they'll say take ULIP. Well, that was the state, you know. So now unbundling is required. I hope Bima Sugam does that. See, simple logic. If the insurance companies are not willing to sell term insurance, then put it on a platform. Then if the insurance sector protests, then you say we are putting on a platform the products which you are not willing to sell. How can you protest? Then as far as trading is concerned, futures and options. All of you know the statistics. SEBI has conducted a study saying that 90% of retail investors who engage in futures and options are making losses. Okay, so if you go for a party in the evening, nobody will tell you about the losses which they made. They'll tell you about the profit which they made on a lucky day. Okay, it ends badly, and then the investor base, the genuine investor base of the country gets eroded. Then once they are out of the market, they remain out of the market for 3-4 years. So they are chasing price targets. And risky strategies are recommended for small investors. So the need of the hour is you have to tell the investors that investment is different, trading is different. You have to build up your own personal portfolio. See, idea is not to outperform the markets. What is the basic objective of investment? The basic objective of investment is you invest for a rainy day, and when you have a requirement, like a marriage in the family, a health emergency, or tuition fees to be paid, the money is available to you. Your job is not to outperform the market. So coming to concluding remarks, several government and institutional initiatives are in place and is ongoing. We are part of the largest financial inclusion program in the world, and we are also improving. The affluent can take care of themselves, but need to be incentivized to keep their wealth within India. And the middle segment may need to avail of products from the BFSI sector. So the concept of caveat emptor prevails. You need to take the help of a certified financial advisor. And the BFSI sector also is primed to take care of the requirements of the upper echelons of the society. But the BFSI sector can do much more to take care of the middle sector. At a personal level, in 2010, I was invited by the board of one life insurance company saying that we are not growing, we have targets, but the markets are saturated and we are not able to grow. This was in the year 2010. I found out that they are selling bundled products. I told them, look, you got your license in the year 2000. As soon as IRDA opened up the sector to the private sector. For 10 years, if you had sold term insurance and got a solid base of customers, then you wouldn't have been in this status today. I'm sorry to say that in the year 2025, my advice continues to be the same. Okay, so they talk about insurance penetration, density, etc., but they are not selling term insurance. So that should be the starting point. So I hope that the researchers here will be able to delve deeper into some of the issues which tickle their curiosity, and the students here get a panoramic view of the BFSI sector. It's not all ULIPs, it's not all trading. There is much more to it. As far as careers are concerned, business correspondent, business facilitator, account aggregator, there are so many professions here in the middle office, front office, back office, in addition to the glamorous areas of treasuries and investment banking. There's a lot of work and lot of scope. And entrepreneurship in the BFSI sector is also a favorable proposition. You can be a gig worker and provide services simply by helping people to open demat accounts, simply by helping people to locate investments in their homes and get it formalized and transferred into their names. A lot of work is there. So since this is Ambedkar Institute and financial inclusion is a core principle here, this is the focus of my talk today with reference to the BFSI sector. Thanks for inviting me, and I hope I made a useful contribution.
Thank you, sir, for the interesting lecture. As I said earlier, now the floor is open for questions and answers. I would request anyone who seeks to ask the question to Professor Korivi, please raise your hand, introduce yourself, and you can then ask the question.
Any easy questions?
There. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My name is Sushil Herwa from Madhya Pradesh. My question is, what is the role of digital thread reports and VFSI?
Role of?
Digital thread report released by the Ministry of Electronic Information.
Digital, say again?
Thread. Digital threat report.
Digital thread reports. Threat.
Threats.
Digital threats.
Okay. I'm not able to answer your question on digital threats. Okay. It is more an area of cyber.
Yeah, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So your favorite student, sir?
Yes, Tarun.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask, sir, everybody tells us that ULIPs are not a good product, sir, probably from the investment point of view. But I would like to know, sir, how come this product has survived for so long, sir? Probably this was the first product which the brokers were selling, sir. How come it has survived for so long, sir?
Okay, the question of whether it has survived is itself an existential one. because we have to really find out whether it is having some persistence beyond the third year. Okay, so that is something which has to be examined. It is a outcome of product pushing. It is more an outcome of product pushing. So what happens is new agents are recruited, new targets are met, and the old ones die down. So at an aggregate level, it looks like an increase. It looks like the product is sustaining. But satisfaction levels is something we have to see. Okay, I know one person who is in the insurance sector, and when she was in office, somebody from another insurance company called up her mother-in-law and told her to withdraw her FD and invest in a ULIP.
Thank you, sir.
See, ULIP may not be a bad product. These are designed by actuaries, and these are very good on paper. Okay, but should it be your first product? You know, even I don't want to name the bank. It was a foreign bank, and they, through their agent or relationship manager, they enticed a customer saying that it's just a single premium policy. You pay 50,000 and take the policy, and its maturity value after XYZ years will be so much. Okay. The next year they get a renewal notice for the second premium. He said, I was told it's a single premium policy. They said, who told you? He gave the name of the officer. They said, that officer has left our organization. Okay, reputed bank, MNC bank, and then they sell the policy as if it's a single premium policy. Another example of mis-selling, I'll tell you. These things are best understood by examples, you know. One person I know, he is a technician in the film industry. He handles the cameras. Okay. He gets employed for 3 months, then he is looking for a contract. Okay. And payments are not on time, so after 6 months he gets a good amount of money, but for work which was done 6 months earlier. Unfortunately, at that time, one insurance agent comes to him and sells him a single premium policy. Now, he has taken loans to run his household for 6 months. He gets some money. There's oxygen at the end of the tunnel. And then comes along this person and offers him a policy by telling him it's a single premium policy. Okay, it's a very expensive mistake. Product is not bad. See, all these 3 products which I said, trading, credit card, ULIP, intrinsically the products are good, but the suitability has to be seen. Okay. Now, if you can, like I said, those 4 components, if you can create a do-it-yourself product with different products, different instruments, then why go for a ULIP? See, in mutual funds, there is so much of regulatory oversight that if the entry load or exit load is increased by 0.5%, then SEBI will jump on you. Okay, but in another sector, the commissions will be 40%. So every 100 rupees which you invest, 40% goes towards fees and charges and management fees. Only 60% of yours is invested. Then, and if it is permitted, then this is a clear case of regulatory arbitrage. Yes.
Yes. We have a question from here, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm Mahima Moses, Research Associate here at DAIC itself. This is comparatively a personal question that I would want to ask. If you were to start your career again today as a young student, what area of finance or policy would you focus on?
Okay. There are plenty of areas. One area is the whole banking sector. There are a lot of career options open, in the sense that when one joins a bank, initially one has to be having credit assessment skills. Once you move up the ladder, you can go into corporate banking, and in corporate banking you are helping medium and large companies to raise money from the capital markets. Okay. And later on, one can take up other assignments in the bank itself on strategic matters like mergers, acquisitions, etc. So you start with credit and then move to capital market solutions. Okay. The problem, research areas are, banking is changing. Okay. This whole system of fractional reserve banking started in Sweden, where the concept of float money, the multiplier, Okay, you deposit, your customer deposits a check and you give him a credit. Okay, that is going because now the definition of money itself is changing.
Yes.
Okay, so money moves electronically very fast. People hardly use checks today. So banks are having a problem of asset liability mismatch. Okay, as I was discussing with my friend during lunchtime, people are moving out of FDs and they are
Yes.
putting it into mutual funds. So we have a system now where institutional money is going to finance the corporates, like Power Finance Corporation financing large power projects. Banks are better off doing working capital. So if large companies will access the capital markets for their capital expansion, the banking finance is left for MSMEs. That transition we have seen. But I wonder if bankers are up to it. Yes, please.
Sir, I had a question, and it's slightly on the broader side, and about economics and policy. When we look at it, implications of bad and good financial decisions by the state go a very long way. We see that democracy, in its inherent value, it keeps changing these mindsets of what is a good or bad financial decision. So my question was a little two-pronged. First, should there be ideally a lock-in period where the economists are allowed to execute a certain financial policy over a period of time, regardless of the changing mindset, right? And two, in the growing era of AI, what would be some of the policy recommendations that we should be taking up to focus on an economy that's integrated with the world?
Okay. Two instances I can give you. One is in 2008-9 when you had the global financial crisis. Okay, at that time what happened was USA was fortunate because at that time the chairman of the Federal Reserve was Ben Bernanke. Okay, and the capital markets had faced a very bleak situation because in capital markets what happens is you have to pay me, I have to pay you, I want to pay you but I cannot pay you because he has not paid me. And there's a domino effect. So that's what happened. And then Goldman Sachs, it started with Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, then Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they were all facing that problem. Okay, and then the President of the United States and Secretary of Treasury asked Ben Bernanke, can we bail them out? So Federal Reserve said that we can bail out Citibank because it's a bank. We can bail out Amex because it's a bank. We can't bail out Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan because they are investment banks. They are not commercial banks. So the President of the United States asked Ben Bernanke, can we lend them? Though they are not banks. So Ben Bernanke very classically said, me financing banks like Citibank is monetary policy. But giving money to the market participants out of the government taxpayers' money, that is fiscal policy. Beautiful, theory and practice. Okay, so at that time, the government, what they did was, they were told, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley were told to become banks. And then the lending window was opened to them. Okay, and the US Treasury also bought shares of these banks which were in trouble and injected capital. And what were the Wall Street headlines? We are all Keynesians now. In Wall Street, which is the bastion of capitalism, they said we are all Keynesians now. Okay, government assisted bailout. Okay, back in China, I saw Tiananmen Square, the Chairman Mao photo, and I saw Shanghai Stock Exchange. Marks and markets coexisting together. So the objective is that when I asked the Chinese, how did you permit capital markets? Okay, capitalism. So they said, no, our goal is to stimulate employment by whatever means. We are willing to give away our dogmas. So what happens? Moscow has a stock exchange today. Okay, so what happens is the Marxist economies accept market solutions. And in the Western economies, they say that when you have severe cases of market failure, then the government has to step in, which is Keynesian. Okay, so there is no ideological, I would say, rigidity when you are faced with a crisis. So I would say the crisis moves the action. Okay, because as Keynes said, the market can remain illiquid, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain liquid. So we look at the exigencies of the situation. Okay, you had a second question?
AI.
It's combined.
AI.
Policy recommendations for AI. Yes. So AI is like finance, as Y.V. Reddy, the former governor of Reserve Bank, said, finance is a good servant but a bad master. Okay. Now, as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, it is getting more and more sophisticated. Okay. It reminds me of Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park, and he predicts that in one of his writings that biological man and robotic man will be difficult to distinguish. So AI has become very sophisticated. But AI, as far as finance is concerned, is very good for giving you the first cut report. By all means, use AI because it is good at ferreting out information and giving you a first cut report. But to understand and interpret that and to implement that, you need human mind. Okay, very much like, let me draw the analogy of a pilot. A pilot will put the plane in cruise mode and then he can have a cup of tea. Okay, but when he receives a weather warning, then manual takes over. So please use all the modern techniques, artificial intelligence to the hilt. Okay, but not for ultimate decision making. For routine decision making, okay. Now let me give you an example. Suppose you implement a particular scheme, okay, like a Kisan Samman Yojana, you implement it, but then you receive reports that in one particular state it is not working. Artificial intelligence will give you the report that it's working in different ways, okay. Then you have to revamp that scheme in that particular state, okay. Or a senior doctor will leave much of the monitoring of the patient to a junior doctor. But then when things go out of control, the senior doctor has to take over. That is the role of AI. It is very important, but subordinate to human mind. Okay, it's like technical analysis in trading. Technical analysis will help you do well and make money beautifully when the trend is uniform. But when the trend changes, then the human mind has to take over.
Yeah. Professor from Gargi College.
I am Dr. Nitish Kumar, sir. Teach political science in Gargi College. And first of all, I would like to thank you for your very enlightened presentation, sir.
Thank you.
My question is
Mic is
that you rightly pointed that India has achieved a very, we can say, phenomenal growth in last 20-30 years, and no doubt at all financial inclusion has also taken place. But my query is this, that provided the entire situation of this globalization, and still in India you can see that there is uneven development, and even in the entire process of financial inclusion, it is taking place but has not reached up to the satisfactory level. So there is miles to go, still remain, we have to travel a lot. But provided the situation of this complexity of globalization, in which some developments, for instance, take place in, let's say, in Israel or in Palestine or at any, at any place around the globe, then it has its repercussion in India and the entire, we can say, Indian economy. So how a simple investor, a person who is not aware to all this complexity of globalization and the entire, entire phenomena that is taking place in international politics, will calculate its financial stability in Indian market. And another point related to this, that how a common person will think about financial inclusion in the prevalence of black market economy. Because in India we can see that there is financial growth, but at the same time we also talk about the presence of black money or black market. So provided these two challenge of globalization, the complexity of globalization on the one hand, and the prevalence of black market economy, how a common person and government can talk about greater financial inclusion. This is the point I just wanted.
Excellent. Two parts. One is globalization. As far as an individual investor is concerned, what ammunition do I have as an individual to fight globalization? That is the question. Now, to some extent, we need not be alarmed, because now today all the headlines are about USA and US trade policy. But as of now, India's exports to US is hardly 3% of our GDP. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing, there is an offsetting impact that probably some of the things which they take from Vietnam or China may be cheaper from India. So that offsetting effect is there. If you look at from the 1970s onwards, when China decided to go with market forces, China joined the other ASEAN tigers by following a policy of export or perish. Okay, so ex-China, all the other Asian economies, including Japan, were export or perish, because they set up modern manufacturing centers, and it was not meant for their domestic population. Their domestic population was minuscule. So they had to export to Europe and USA. Now there is a global turmoil, they face the brunt of it, because their economies are export or perish. China also joined the bandwagon, and they created huge capacities, became the factory of the world. Okay. As far as India is concerned, we were inward looking. Okay. As far as exports are concerned, we did not have that export orientation, which is coming now. Okay. Now that export orientation will come if the logistics and transportation costs are reduced. And thanks to internet, today a footwear maker will get an order from Mexico, because now geographical boundaries don't impede marketing. That is happening. So Indians are becoming more export oriented because of this. And textiles, because of the problem with our eastern neighbor is having, including problems there of hygiene and child labor and etc., and accidents and safety requirements. So some of those orders are coming to India. Plus, if the transportation and logistics costs reduce, then we will have an export orientation. Then if we don't export to the US for some reason, then Europe and Africa are already there, with whom we are going to have a increasing engagement, because of some of the disenchantment of the other countries because of the China debt trap potential, which you know. And your second question was on black money. Okay. There's one economist in Kotak Mahindra Bank called Upasana Bharadwaj, and she was talking about formalization of the economy. Okay. Today, India is amazing, because you go to a street vendor and you point your phone and you make a payment. Now there's a bank at the back. Okay. So formalization has helped, and one evidence of formalization is the rising GST collections. Okay, so I need the input tax credit, so I take a bill from you, and the chain goes on. So formalization has helped. All countries, including developed countries, also have a black economy, an informal economy that does not pay taxes. Only thing is, in developed countries, that magnitude is more. We can try to reduce that. Okay, now if I remember correctly, the previous finance ministers, including late Arun Jaitley and now Nirmala Sitharaman, have said that if the GST collections are buoyant, then we will reduce the income tax. They said it some years back, and they did it. Okay, so in the medium and medium enterprises and large enterprises, today the corporate governance movement has taken root, however small. I'm sitting on audit committees and compliance committees, and today the CEO and the board says, we don't want arrears of income tax and GST matters to come to our board. Pay it. This is the same culture I had seen at Tata's. You know, GRD Tata used to say, pay taxes and let the lawyers take care of the court cases. You do legitimate business. Okay. So the change in mindset is the first step. Okay. Formalization of the economy is improving as reflected in the GST. And today what happens is if you are having GST and you are collecting and paying GST, then based on your GST records, banks will sanction you loans, because that is a audited figure. So that is the push. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. We have one last question. Anybody else? We have two questions, sir, with your permission.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Over there.
Good evening, sir. So I just want to know that, as we know, 90% of F&O investors are losing money in market, F&O market. So what steps are taken by SEBI to procure those 90% investor, and how 10% investors are making money?
You want the answer or you want the truth?
Truth.
The truth and nothing but the truth. 10% of the students of the investors, if you say,
No, traders.
traders are making money because probably of luck. It's luck rather than skill. The market has moved as per their anticipation. Okay, now let me tell you something. What's your background so that I can answer your question better?
Give him the mic.
So I'm a sub-broker with IIFL Securities.
Okay, then you are a specialist. When I said good, bad and ugly, it was not about you, other brokers. Okay, so I can answer your question technically. Okay, if I'm an institutional investor and I need to sell some stocks because I'm facing a redemption, I have to generate that money next week. So I purchase a put option, correct? Okay, so that I get my price protection. Okay, so basically I have an underlying position which I am hedging by taking a put option. Or if I'm an exporter, I'm receiving dollars, dollar value versus rupee has to be maintained. Okay, so I take a forward position or a futures position. So futures and options are required as a hedge when you have an underlying position. Okay. A retired person or a housewife somewhere in India, why does she have to buy futures and options when she can buy 5 shares of Infosys? Okay, and wait for 5 years for the appreciation. Individuals do invest in a 5-year FD and 3-year FD, isn't it? But when they buy a stock, after 3 weeks, why does their pocket start burning? You give 3 years for an FD to mature. Why don't you give 3 years for a stock to live up to its potential? So basically speaking, F&O is not meant for retail investors, because, but they're allowed to invest. So F&O also should come with the statutory warning on a cigarette packet, you know, injurious to health. I would not recommend it.
Okay, we have from our accounts branch itself, sir.
Sano. Good evening, sir. Which sector is more beneficiary for long-time investment in gold, mutual fund or share?
Gold, mutual fund or
Share.
share. Okay. So gold is a hedge against inflation. Okay. And typically what happens is the movement of gold is opposite to dollar. If dollar is going to weaken in the long run, which it may, then gold is a good investment. Okay. So gold doesn't give you the jumps which equity gives. Equity gives you the maximum jump. Okay. But if you are not a specialist in investing in equity, you can invest in mutual fund. All three are good. It's just a question of suitability. You can even have a bit of all. Okay. Now, I will add one question to your question, and that is, individual investors should invest in established companies. And established investors like Narayana Murthy and Ratan Tata can invest in startups. But what mistakes? Individuals invest in startups and IPOs, untested IPOs. And established investors invest in Infosys. Totally cross. Okay. So, grown-ups should invest in startups. And startup investors should invest in grown-up companies. Okay. So what happens is you can build a base portfolio. When you start out, you should start investing in a mutual fund. Later on, when you begin to understand companies better, you invest in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 good companies. That's the way to grow. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. My question was little related, though you have already answered. Like for a new investor or for a common person, if we would ask, like from which exactly way they can start investing, either SIPs or like trading or into stocks or FDs. But you already mentioned start with the one stock or SIPs. So is there any other thing or change that you would mention, or is it just?
Start with a mutual fund.
Okay.
Okay, and then, for example, somebody is an automobile engineer or somebody is working in a pharma company. Suppose somebody is working in Dr. Reddy's, and through his field, he comes to know that Sun Pharma has created a breakthrough drug. Then he is better off investing in some stocks of Sun Pharma. But he can keep his mutual fund investment also growing. Similarly, an automobile engineer could understand the auto sector better. That's called core competence. Okay. So start with mutual funds and then go to stocks based on your competence.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have one last, if you permit.
Yes.
This is the last query.
नमस्कार सर, मेरा नाम कुमकुम है और मेरा क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है कि आज तक के आपके एक्सपीरियंस के अकॉर्डिंग आज की यंग जनरेशन को आप क्या एडवाइस देना चाहेंगे टुवर्ड देयर करियर एंड गोल अचीवमेंट्स?
अच्छा, वो तो मैंने बता दिया. फोटोग्राफर मैडम किधर है? हाँ, so as far as career advice is concerned, if you join a bank, okay, and take exposure in credit assessment, evaluation of loans, okay, then later on you can, so first loans for individuals, then loan to SMEs, MSMEs, then loans to corporates, and then get into market related solutions like debentures or IPOs, merchant banking, etc. That advice I can give. Apart from that, if you want to cater to entrepreneurship, you can pass the NISM exam for mutual fund distributors. Okay, and you can become an entrepreneur, you can become a mutual fund distributor. You can also become a distributor for general insurance, for example, fire insurance, car insurance, etc. Okay, and then you can get into investment advisory, financial planning, because that is a need of the hour. Okay, so you can start with mutual fund distribution.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. It was very, I would request all of us to give a big round of applause. In fact, this has been the most interesting session. The topic was financial inclusion and BFSI landscape. My accountant was more keen on getting investment opportunities and guidance from you, sir. But of course, we all have been enlightened about the role which financial inclusion will take place towards Viksit Bharat. Sir has covered the presentation from the beginning. What is the role of the government? What is the role of the industry? And I am really thankful for sir telling us about the and answering the queries to the youngsters about the way they will take their career into this domain also. Thank you once again, sir. As per our custom, sir, may I request all of us to join for national anthem here. After the national anthem, the high tea arrangement has been done in VIP dining hall, which is on floor number 1. Now may I all request you for the national anthem, please.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Okay, thanks,